about changes in the welfare states in Europe. It's often believed that welfare states in Europe are quite big and generous, and it's often believed that they are very difficult to change. My argument is that over the past 20 years, you have to take a long-term perspective. There's been tremendous change. I mean, there's important changes in the macroeconomy due to European integration, but also in the wage bargain, in social insurance, in labor market policy, in healthcare, in pensions, and so on and so forth. And if you add all these reforms together, so cumulatively, you see a gradual but real transformation of the European welfare states, and not all, but the majority of them. And to summarize the change, I think it has become very much employment-centered. This has to do with the demographic profile in many European welfare states. I mean, these are aging societies. And so in order to finance a welfare state in the future, it's very important you have high levels of employment participation. So a lot of people pay contributions and taxes for the social security and healthcare system. And I think by and large, this is the major trend. There are exceptions, very important exceptions, like Greece and Italy, where you see a real slowdown of the reforms. In fact, after the entry to the European Monetary Union in 1999, and this has to do with the fact that interest rates went down tremendously for these countries, and so in terms of public budget and public deficits, and they had high growth, there was no need to continue the reform. Whereas in countries like Germany, the Netherlands, the Scandinavian countries, and also the UK and Ireland, there was this definite trend towards employment-centered social security reform, with the basic idea that if you invest in people, the long-term return of those investments will pay into the welfare system. So today, the big problem in Europe is the divergence between the North and the South, because the South stopped reforming. They did reform when they were trying to get into the EU, but once they're in, they stopped doing so. And so this leads to a very risky situation whereby two of the main innovations of the post-war era, European integration on the one hand, and the building up of a welfare state on the other, are on a collision course. And I'm advising the European Commission on this front, and I really hope that there can be some kind of balance between these two important commitments. But it's very risky, because a monetary union cannot be sustained when there's too much divergence across Europe. So that's a major risk right now. First of all, I believe, as I said, there are many important reforms in welfare systems, and I must say that in the healthcare systems, these are just parametric reforms. I mean, not really big reforms. Although the Netherlands is really an exception. But given the fact that aging is going to lead to severe cost explosion in the healthcare system, I mean, I think the next big reform dynamic will be healthcare. And here, in most of the public system, the way we calculate health and social protection, especially when it's financed by the state, is that the state is not a producer, it's really a consumer. And sort of, if you spend money on health or education, this eats up, private economic initiative. And I think it's very important to change this way of thinking, because schooling and good health, where people can return to work quickly and again pay into the larger public fund, I mean, has an important social investment function. It has cost side too. People get sick and may not get well anymore. But it's very important in our thinking not to see health just as a cost, but rather as something that can capacitate human capital in the wider economy. And this realization is actually is building up in Europe, and it has to do with the aging problem.